government officials insist that this is
Hey, you want to know what I was just thinking about? James Cameron. How does that guy do it, man? Every film he makes is freaking awesome. He's got like 3 movies that crossed $1 billion. One of them was the highest grossing movie of all time. Every time he makes a sequel, it's better than the original. How the hell does he do it? It doesn't make any sense.
Hold on.
What? Ah! Jesus Christ, dude!
Are you injured?
No, but what are you doing?
I'm here to help you.
Oh, you are? Okay, well, you gonna chime into the conversation then?
Do you understand?
Jesus! Yes, I understand.
Not a man.
God.
Machine.
Okay, I mean, that actually would make a lot of sense, you know? If he was a robot or something.
Not a robot. Cyborg. Cybernetic organism.
Right. Cybernetic. Cyborg, yeah, not robot. That's what I meant.
Get your head down!
Oh my god. This is getting ridiculous now, man.
Pay attention! I gotta ditch this car.
Just forget I asked. Jesus.
Skin, hair, blood.
I'm not going out with you again after this, all right? Just take me home.
The 600 series had rubber skin. Sweat, bad
Wow.
breath, everything.
He's probably gonna retire soon anyway, okay? I'm done with this.
Not yet. Not for about 40 years.
Oh, is that right? You're the expert on that now?
Right.
Okay. Well,
It doesn't feel pity or remorse.
so Cameron's in it now.
And it absolutely will not stop. Ever.
Didn't you just say that he was gonna retire in 40 years? I thought you were the expert.
I don't know.
Oh, you don't know now. Oh, okay. Great. So everything you've just said has been, what, bullshit? Wasting my time? Okay. This is great. I love hanging out with you, man. Just...
Doesn't make any goddamn sense.
What? Hey. What's going on here?
I say we grease this rat fuck son of a bitch right now.
What? I don't know what the hell's going on here. Kyle?
He figured that he could get an alien back through quarantine if one of us was impregnated.
Whoa, what? Impregnate? Sigourney, what are you talking about?
Nobody would know about the embryos we were carrying.
Embryos? I don't know what the hell's going on here.
Me and Newt.
Hey, I especially don't know what's going on with that.
Wait a minute now, we don't know.
Yeah, exactly. You don't know. I don't know. Thank you, Kyle.
Yes, the only way he could do it is if he sabotaged certain freezers on the way home.
Sigourney,
yours.
no.
Then he could jettison the
Guys,
bodies.
I don't know what the hell she's talking about, all right?
Fuck! He's dead. You're dog meat, pal.
Nuts, all right? Listen to what it is you're saying, okay? I'm just the guy who's wondering how the hell James Cameron makes such good films, but is also so successful. All right, that's it.
You know, I don't know which species is worse. You don't see them fucking each other over for a goddamn percentage.
What are you talking about? I don't know what she's talking about, I swear.
All right, we waste him. No offense.
No! Hey, guys, you guys know James Cameron?
No! No, she has a strong heart. She wants to live. Come on, Lynch. Come on, baby.
No.
Come on, breathe, baby. God damn it, breathe!
This isn't necessary, guys. I'm fine.
God damn it, you bitch! You never backed away from anything in your life! Now fight!
Oh! Ah! God, why you hitting me, man? Ah! You guys are just gonna stand there and let him do this?
Fight! 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 Fight!
All right! James Cameron.
Hasta la vista, baby.
I'm not gonna go through this whole thing. Just drop me off right over there, please. Thank you.
Chill out, dickwad.
Oh, I'm a dickwad. Oh, okay, that's great. Just right over there. Thanks. Ah, God, what is it with this?
Who do you work for?
I'm self-employed.
What are you doing with Carlos the Jackal?
Look, I've been abused for the last couple hours. Okay, I just want to go home now. All right? Is that so hard?
One more question. Do you still love your husband?
I don't know who you've been talking to, but I don't have a husband. I'm straight, although if I had to choose a husband, there is one guy that I would love to pick their brain. So if I had to marry them to do that, I think I would do that.
It was work for us.
Work for you? Does it have to do with James Cameron? Hey! Hey there. My name's Michael. I was assigned to bring you in, so you just want to follow me back and...
Give me your hand.
Yeah, of course. Here.
Now close your eyes.
I really think we should just get going, you know?
Go on.
Alright, they're closed.
Keep your eyes closed. Don't pee.
I'm not gonna peek. Hey, while you have me here, do you know James Cameron?
You'll hold on to the railing. Do you trust me?
Okay, no. I'm just gonna... I'm going. I'm gone. Bye.
You're not in Kansas anymore. You're on Pandora, ladies and gentlemen. Respect that fact. If there is a hell, you might want to go there for some R&R.
Hello and welcome to MBW Live, the Movie Explorer. I'm Michael, and today we made it. We did it. James Cameron. We're talking about the GOAT, the beast, the god king of commercial outcomes of films. Whatever you want to call it. We're talking about James Cameron, a career retrospective. His entire career. I've compiled a 3-part novel that I'm going to recite to you now. No, I didn't do that, but we are going to be talking about James Cameron. A lot of him. Everything he's done. Everything that maybe you have been watching or following or listening to this entire time. The James Cameron saga. This is the conclusion to that saga. Now, James Cameron, above all other filmmakers for me, I love a lot of different filmmakers. Sometimes their entire filmography. Sometimes it's just a film or two or three. But with James Cameron, he's got a special place for me because 2 different times in my life he inspired me for different reasons. The first time I didn't even know who he was. I was a kid, and that movie was Aliens. And I'd say that one, it inspired my creativity and I think my love for movies before I even knew what that was, and video games and everything. I would reenact Aliens with the neighborhood kids, walkie-talkies, home movie camera. We're in the Hive, play make-believe, the whole thing. And yeah, Aliens always had a special place in my head, my mind, my heart, my whole body, everything, because it really, like no other, inspired me. And it obviously inspired many people, many things, video games. The one that always comes to my mind is StarCraft. It literally took lines from the movie. The Terran are obviously based on the Colonial Marines. And, of course, you can say, well, Aliens, it's the sequel to Alien. It inspired that. And, yeah, I think Aliens is on a whole nother plane, though. But we're not here just to talk about Aliens. That was the first time it inspired me, or I'm picking up the skit. James Cameron. That's what I mean. James Cameron inspired me then, and he inspired me with Avatar. Because it blew me, just like it did the whole world, apparently, away. And it really jump-started my feelings. Or I'd say jump-start's actually the correct word. Yeah, it reinvigorated me, because I always loved movies, always loved video games, but that wasn't on my brain more than like a hobby and of something I like to do. But after I saw that movie about 3 times in theaters, it really got that stuck in my head. God, I should not drink carbonated drinks, but I have to. Energy drinks and beer, I gotta have it when I do this. The Avatar inspired me like no other. I saw it 3 times regular, 1 time when it came out in the special edition re-release. Many times after that on Blu-ray, including recently, if you've kept up with this. And it wasn't until a couple years later that I took it seriously, but that really planted the seed in my mind. Like, I started making stuff on my own, like little car films and stuff after that. But that's the best way I can describe it. It planted the seed in my head to keep doing it. And so I did. And obviously, to that point, I hadn't seen everything he had done. I never saw True Lies until recently. I actually didn't see The Terminator, the original, for a long time. I saw Terminator 2 first. But I was aware of what that was. It took me a long time to see The Abyss. I, of course, saw Titanic. And I saw his 2 documentaries, actually. But, yeah, I don't know. All the pieces were there in my brain, but it took a while to connect the dots, I guess. And he was there planting those dots and seeds all along the way. So he's always going to have a special place in my mind. And again, apparently he does in so many other people's lives, both artistically and commercially. And he has the track record to prove it. And what he's achieved is just insane. Literally nobody else, no other filmmaker has done it. Will they ever do it? I don't know. As of now, we can't say that, but maybe in the future, although it doesn't look bright, the future of blockbusters, they shrink, and the goals they set, well, actually, there are some blockbusters that surprise, but for the most part, it's just not likely. And movies in general have been in decline in terms of the theater experience. But he's the one exception to that. Every time he makes something, people flock to it, literally, and put their money where their mouth is. I think that trend will continue until he's done doing it. And I think the best example of that will be if he inevitably doesn't finish the Avatar franchise. Like, let's say he does 3's already in the bag, but let's say he does 4, and then the 5th one, he's like, I can't do it for whatever reason, or he just doesn't want to, and which would be understandable, although regrettable. That film that he doesn't do would be the key to say, is it really just him? Obviously, that filmmaker would have a huge advantage riding off the back of him in the franchise, but that would be the true test. Let's give someone the keys to the kingdom and see what happens when they do it. If it fails, well then, he really has the cinema god's graces or something. I don't know. Whatever it is that he has, literally nobody else has it because it's just in the facts if you just look at them. But he's truly one of a kind, truly incredible. And in saying that, Few filmmakers have left as profound a mark on the world of cinema as James Cameron, a director, screenwriter, and producer known for his technical innovation, grand storytelling, and ambitious filmmaking. Cameron has consistently pushed the boundaries of what is possible on screen. Over the course of his illustrious career, he has directed some of the highest-grossing and most influential films of all time. From pioneering visual effects to redefining blockbuster cinema, Cameron's legacy is one of both artistic and technological mastery. Every film that he makes, he's always pushing some kind of boundary, whether it's the technology of cinema, whether that technology even exists yet. Because of the films he's made, technologies have been invented or at least brought to a point where they're actually viable to use, so other films can then use them. Every film he does that. So I definitely think, if you want to talk about the secret sauce of James Cameron, maybe it's the Tukun whale goo brain that I talked about last time, or maybe it's just that he has no choice, apparently, but to innovate in every film that he makes. And if you look at Avatar, you could say, oh, well, he set the groundwork for the first one, and he just did it again for Avatar, or The Way of Water. No, that's not quite accurate, because he, again, furthered that technology, made it even better, more efficient, and he says as much. He was able to get things done much quicker, which I'm sure was great for everyone involved. But also, in terms of that story, he innovated there. Did he do something crazy that's never been done story-wise? No, but he improved what was there and brought, I think, the missing piece to the first one, which was just more heart and soul. And if you look at every film before that, there was always something there that he was innovating on. Usually it was, and again, I say that it's not just him. It's not like he's some god that did everything you see. Obviously, he had a crew. He had Stan Winston. He had, the cinematographers that he worked with, the producers. If we want to get onto that, does that really make a difference on the final product, or does it just make things run smoother? It's hard to gauge, but he assembled that team, Stan Winston, for example, or at least said, yeah, I like that guy, I want to work with him. All of that made a difference. And that's why when it comes to directing, sometimes it's the actual director, having the idea, having the choice, telling someone what to do. And other times it's just them, throwing that back at the director. Hey, what do you think about this? Let's do this. And it's the director's job to say, yeah, that's great, I like that. Or that's okay, but let's add this to it. They basically have the final say to everything. So whether the idea came from him or not, whether the art of whatever you're seeing, let's say the exoskeleton of the Terminator, for example, yeah, obviously he didn't, well, actually he thought of that in a dream, apparently, and sketched it, and then Stan Winston made his version of it, but he signs off on everything that you see on screen, and he works with the people that help him. Basically, he's still responsible for everything you're seeing. So when it comes to innovating in filmmaking, he's also the key to that, because those people that are helping him innovate, the team that is working with him, wouldn't even be doing that if he wasn't there saying, hey, I want to make this film and I need this. So the key component is him. So as far as Cameron's life, he's a Canadian. He was born in Kapuskasing, Ontario in 1954. Cameron's early years were shaped by a curiosity for the natural sciences and an insatiable appetite for science fiction. Yeah, if you could say any more. After moving to California as a teenager, Cameron initially studied physics before switching to English, only to drop out of college entirely. And then his career began inauspiciously as a truck driver, but an epiphany after watching Star Wars, when that came out, pushed him to pursue filmmaking. Much like my epiphany in seeing Avatar pursued me. Made me pursue filmmaking. Sadly, I'm not James Cameron, though, so that means years of making stuff, and let's just not get into that. We're talking about James Cameron today. Cameron's technical, also different environment, it's filmmaking is totally different now. Easier, much easier for anybody to get into, harder, to actually make that mean something. Cameron's technical inclinations led him to work in special effects. That's where he started working with Roger Corman in his films. And Galaxy of Terror, a lot of those effects, not that that's a great movie, he had a hand in. If you do any research on that, you would see that a lot of the stuff that you even see, which actually the effects on such a low budget movie are pretty cool, and especially for the time. And he was the one suggesting most of those things, and even to the point where the people that were working with him like, dude, what are you talking? I don't know how to do that. And he would just be like, what do you mean? You just do this. And he also technically directed some of those scenes as like a second unit director. So that basically kind of was a start. And then after that, and he, I'm sure there's other films, who knows, working with Corman that he may or may not have done stuff like that with. But his first film technically is Piranha 2, The Spawning, which came out in 1982. But he was fired off of it. He didn't get to finish filming it. And apparently he would sneak into the editing bay and try to edit both his footage and what was shot. I'm assuming he probably tried to get as much of his footage in there as possible and shape the edit. A film I have yet to see, which I will watch at some point. And yeah, nothing special there, but technically that was his first movie. Understandably, he doesn't want to talk about it too much. He makes jokes, but he's like, that's not what he's about. His first true film was The Terminator, which came out in 1984. The Terminator. Arnold Schwarzenegger. Honestly, when I watch that movie now, I can't believe that was, his first movie. Low budget. Everything just feels so expert, even at that time. There is some, the smaller actors, some sound quality things that could have been better. One thing that comes to mind is the part where Kyle Reese first gets Sarah Connor and they're driving. The Terminator was on the hood of the car. They throw him off. He rolls, and then there's a cop there, and I forget exactly what he says, but he's saying what's going on, and just the voice acting of that was honestly terrible. Things like that. But it's not, it's just a bit part actor. Just, we need a cop to say this thing, and then the Terminator takes him out and steals his car. So things like that. But he ironed those out in Aliens, his second film. None of that stuff exists in that movie. But that's all you can, if you want to point out a negative, or like his first film not being, 100% perfect, things like that. The budget was $6.4 million for The Terminator, and obviously it introduced audiences to Arnold Schwarzenegger as a cyborg. He had been Conan before that, and it also just showed Cameron's creativity. He came up with that story based on a dream, and created a time loop paradox that we still talk about and debate to this day. How can this happen if it's already happened, or it needs to happen for the future to happen? It's just a paradox that literally you can endlessly talk about. People like to think, well, it's because of this, and I know all the answers. It ain't that simple. Matter of fact, I'm going to do my own video on what I think about it specifically at some point, so you can expect that, where I go into detail on that. My own theories, opinions, based on research and what is there. So I followed that up with Aliens, which is a sequel to Alien. And rather than mimic the horror of the original, he transformed Aliens into more of an action thriller, although it does have a lot of horror moments into it. I think he had the perfect blend of everything, action, sci-fi, horror, and that. He had strong character development, obviously, not just for Ripley, but for all the characters. Every single one of them is memorable. Not the case in a lot of movies. Even the pilot, God, I is it Pharaoh? One with the sunglasses, which again, StarCraft took some of her lines. But even she, who had a couple lines, was memorable. Very hard to do. And in a moment when she gets taken out, he's really good at having little moments that add a lot to the character that didn't have to be in there and oftentimes are missed. That character, for example, right before she gets taken out by the alien, she reaches for a gun and pulls it out. That just shows, you know, she wasn't just going to lie down and take it. Some fight to her. He could have just had the alien right there. She turns, cut. But no, he wanted that little moment where she's reaching for a gun just to show she had a little fight to her. Things like that. His movies are filled with character moments like that. In Titanic, when Rose is looking for help to, you know, get Jack out of the handcuffs, she's going through the halls and the lights start flickering and she has just a moment where she's freaking out, hyperventilating almost. And it goes on for a good amount of time. Another moment, didn't have to have that, but he did it. And it's a good moment, good character moment, adds a little suspense. All those things make a difference. And Aliens was a success, both commercially and critically when it came out. Sigourney Weaver got an Oscar nomination, and I think one of her best performances, honestly. And that character was awesomely written in that movie. After that, he did The Abyss, which was plagued by tons of difficulties. Had a groundbreaking use of CGI with the water tentacle, which hadn't been done like that in a movie before. Again, everything he does, he has to do something like that. And it's not just a spectacle. It had a point. But he also wants to, like, wow the audience. He wants to try to show them they haven't seen before, experience something they haven't seen before. That whole movie is showing the audience they haven't seen before. You know, deep water diving, which rigs like that, I don't even know. Do they exist? I feel like they could, but maybe there's just no point to it, and that's why they don't really exist. And I'm sure it would be ridiculously expensive. But just underwater diving in general wasn't, you know, most people hadn't experienced any amount of that. And that movie at least tried to do that, although it had some of its own issues. And that same advance he did in that film, they further refined in Terminator 2 with T-1000. And that film in general, that's something that also helps, is his passion is deep water exploring, diving, just the ocean in general. He made a movie about that, essentially. And so he brought two of his passions together, and when you do that, it's just going to be ultimately better than, you know, a hired gun director who's like, oh yeah, I like the script and I'm going to make it cool. Like, he didn't just do that. He made a story about one of his passions. And there's so much, like, detail in that movie that if you don't know what the hell if you don't know anything about that, you just couldn't make a movie like that. In terms of the details and the terms and how authentic it feels. And which, speaking of The Abyss, to kind of sidebar on The Abyss specifically, unfortunately, I think the ending, I don't really have such an issue with it where I'm like, I wish the ending was different, but the ending compared to the rest of the movie is the weak point. It's just in that movie, because up until that point, it's really not about aliens and stuff. You see flashes of them underwater, which I said this when I talked about The Abyss. That could have just been left it there. You see these weird alien things, and it's never explained. It's just like, this is deep water, ocean, we don't know what's under there. We see weird things sometimes. And it could have just added, like, an extra layer of, like, fascination and, what is this? What does it mean? But then he goes full blown at the end and is like, no, there's a whole alien race under there, and I don't know. It didn't completely hit the mark. But when you look at the rest of the movie, it's done so well. So much detail put into it. Great acting by Ed Harris. The part where he's reviving his wife. Again, he spent minutes on that scene. That was not necessary. Most people would cut that in half at least. But he spent a lot of time on that CPR scene, which epic acting moment by Ed Harris, one of his best, I think, and very powerful. Like if you know, if you're enjoying the movie and you're invested in the characters, very powerful moment. Which it's an easy thing to be like, man, this movie's too long. Oh, here's like a 5-minute CPR scene. Why don't we just make that 30 seconds, or not 30 seconds, a minute? That's reasonable. That's how movie time usually works. People die much quicker than they actually do. They get revived much quicker than they actually do. But no, he wanted to spend the time, which is good because a lot of stuff like that isn't normally done in movies, and it makes a difference. I think the scene in itself is cool, but it also adds a lot to his character. It's a great, you know, suspense drama scene. And it's unfortunate because that movie, there's really great moments in that movie, but it just didn't do well, and I'll admit the ending wasn't perfect. Could have been a lot better. Or just maybe he shouldn't have included that ending at all. Although I do think which I technically haven't seen the special edition, but I know like some of the scenes that are in it. I think expanding it, if he was going to do it at all, at least makes it a little bit better. It's not so much like feeling like it was thrown in there. So Terminator 2, Judgment Day, had a budget of $102 million, which at the time was one of the most expensive films of all time, which has obviously been many times over not true at this point, but he turned, which is funny because Alien was the same way as a horror sci-fi film. The Terminator is like a horror sci-fi film, and both sequels to those films he turned it into a more action-oriented, which I think was the right call, because that's part of trying to one-up the original, is to just add, kind of by nature, not even so much like genre, trying to like, I'm going to make it more of an action film, just I'm going to add more action to it, thereby it becoming more of an action film. And that's what he did for Terminator 2. I think he made the right call. It does make the tones feel a little bit different, but I just think that he made the right call. In general, it's a good play to do that. Had groundbreaking CGI at the time, very successful when it came out. Obviously changed like the zeitgeist. I like saying that word, zeitgeist. The culture, you know, Hasta la vista, baby. So many moments like that just were in existence after that movie. Killed it in theaters. I wish I could have seen it. Obviously, I wasn't even born yet, but that would have been awesome. Arnold destroyed his role. Edward Furlong destroyed his life after that. American History X. That's like the last good movie he's been in. And now he just looks really weird and... Hey, man. He just... Woof. Child actors, man. Most of them do not age well. Honestly, he wasn't that great in Terminator 2. But he's a kid, so he can get away with it. True Lies was after that. Arnold again worked with him. In my mind, True Lies is like James Cameron's attempt at making like an 80s Arnold movie, but in his style, adding comedy to it. In that regard, very effective, very entertaining. I had never seen it until recently. I was very entertained, laughed my ass off. Very good movie. It's a good watch. I no longer think it's my least favorite film of his. I don't have a least favorite anymore. Piranha 2, maybe we can just go with that. Then obviously Titanic came after that. Shattered barriers, blew away all expectations. People thought it was going to fail. It was, again, the most expensive movie at the time. And the pressure was on. And did that make him cave? No. Actually, the inverse happened, and that movie exploded, became a worldwide phenomenon, and was the most successful movie at the time, surpassing $1 billion. Won 11 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director. Well deserved. Making Cameron a dominant force in the industry, and then he disappeared for 10 years or so. And why did he do that? Well, besides reaching the ultimate achievement in cinema, having a film that wins 11 Academy Awards, everyone loves it, most successful movie of all time, I think it was warranted to take some time off, especially when he clearly has so many other passions. And what did he do with that? He explored the oceans for that 10-year period. And little did the world know he actually had Avatar written. I'm sure he modified it over the years. But he just didn't want to make it because besides the budget being astronomical, if he were to have made it earlier, it just wasn't going to be what he wanted. And yeah, he made the right call. He waited until technology caught up a little bit, and then he further helped innovate it. In the meantime, he made 2 documentaries, which I don't even know if I've seen Aliens of the Deep, which came out 2005, I think. I saw Ghost of the Abyss, but I don't remember anything about it other than him, in a sub looking out the window with Bill Paxton. I couldn't tell you what happens other than I assume he's looking at the Titanic underwater. So I need to rewatch that and Aliens of the Deep. So in his free time, he got to do his passion and make 2 documentaries out of it. And then came Avatar in 2009. I wasn't super aware of James Cameron at the time. Like, I wasn't following, like, hey, when's his next movie going to be? I just knew I liked his movies. So I remember Avatar coming out, and I saw a trailer, like the very first teaser trailer. The camera was, like, panning. This is what I remember. It got to the face, and then I think Avatar just came on the screen. It was just, like, really... Which I can't find that teaser. Maybe that's just how I remember it, but I could have sworn it was literally just that, and then Avatar comes on the screen. And then Avatar came out, and yeah, it remapped my brain, literally. Smashed records, highest grossing movie of all time, still to this day. That's what that movie did. And again, revolutionized the use of 3D technology and motion capture. Many movies can thank that. For doing that. And then he waited another, or I wouldn't even say waited. He worked on the sequel, The Way of Water. What was that, 12 years it took him? I'm sure, maybe 2 years, 3 years was getting the story right. Maybe even quicker than that. Most of that was just, getting what he wanted to achieve with the technology and filming and editing. I'm sure post-production, actually we can clearly see that it's 2 to 3 years now. So for The Way of Water, probably was a little bit longer. Just to think about how long he's spent on the Avatar franchise is mind-boggling. Because if you realize that he came up with a story in the 90s, the mid-90s, didn't actually shoot it until, I don't know, 2005 or something? 2004? The editing process, 2009. And then he took another 12 years to make 4 more movies out of it, or write them, work on the technology, shoot another one, or 2 of them back to back. Still working on it. Still has 2 more to make after that. It's just crazy. So yeah, maybe he won't finish it, but I hope he does. Not just because I'm a fan, because I just want to see where it goes. Again, it'll be unprecedented, historical. Imagine if every one of those movies makes over $1 billion. Add on to the list of what this man has done that nobody else has done. And maybe if 3... He's teased that the sequels are pretty incredible. Basically saying, like, he made the first one, or he pitched the first one. The studio had a couple pages of notes. He pitched the sequel. They had 1 to 2 pages of notes. Shaved off a couple pages. Pitched the third one, no notes. Or maybe I'm recalling that story wrong and it's 4 and 5 that didn't. Or maybe it's 3, 4, and 5. But either way, that's a studio having no notes. That's high praise. So the expectation is even higher than the sequel. And it's going to be the first time that he's made a threequel. He's always, done sequels, never a threequel, 4-quel and 5-quel. I don't know. What am I excited for above anything else? That And it's not even the franchise. I'm not like a Avatar head or whatever you want to call it. I'm not. There's literally people that have PADS, post-Avatar depression syndrome. I'm not one of those people. I've never even been to the Avatar world. And yes, I do want to really go to that. Yeah, it's not even my favorite sci-fi idea. You know, it's not my favorite storyline, but do I really enjoy it? Absolutely. And yeah, I'm a huge fan. Mainly, honestly, the people involved more than that. But yeah, I fully enjoy the movies, The Way of Water especially. But I would say I like the Alien franchise better than the Avatar franchise. It's got nothing to do with that. So having said all that, what makes James Cameron unique? Well, it's his unwavering commitment to technological advancement and storytelling excellence. Although, yeah, the people are going to, oh, Avatar, excellence in storytelling. Excellence in giving the audience what they want. Was that a better way to say it? Because I'd say that's more accurate for those kind of people. He continually pushes the limits of filmmaking, pioneering advancements in CGI, 3D technology, and underwater cinematography, because of course he does. His films blend compelling human drama with high-concept spectacle, ensuring both critical and commercial success. Cameron's meticulous approach, often involving years of research and development, sets him apart from his peers. Whether exploring the depth of the ocean for The Abyss and Titanic, which I can't believe he actually did that. He got the studio to fund him exploring the Titanic for the movie. Crazy. Developing new camera technology for Avatar, he immerses himself fully in his projects. Yes, for 30 years and counting, his perfectionism, ambition, and dedication to pushing cinematic boundaries have made him one of the most influential filmmakers of all time. His career is a testament to the power of visionary storytelling combined with technological innovation. From The Terminator to Avatar, he has repeatedly redefined blockbuster cinema, creating some of the most beloved and visually stunning films in history. As he continues to expand the Avatar universe and explore new frontiers in filmmaking, one thing remains clear. James Cameron is a filmmaker who refuses to be constrained by the limits of what he has done before and what has been done before. His legacy is one of relentless ambition, pioneering artistry, and a profound impact on the world of cinema. And that's that. I went on way longer than I thought. There's just too much to unpack there. And yeah, so I'm going to move on to the next phase of this. There he is, shooting and directing away. Son of a bitch. Now, this is something I have not watched or heard of him, so I'm very curious what he's going to talk about here. So we're going to be watching and reacting together. As I check something here. Alright.
Please take a seat.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
I thought this was going to be like an intimate little thing. It's like,
Well, look what we have here. James Cameron. It's so wonderful.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Vanessa.
Really such a privilege. And in the room, we spoke about this. We've got many of our country's leading executives, but we've done something a little bit different today. We've asked them to bring someone that was really special to them, that we wanted them to inspire, or that they wish to inspire.
I see we got a lot of young people here.
We have got quite a few young people here.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Absolutely.
Look forward to this.
Got my own young people here. We've got
okay.
many other people's young people.
Put up your
here.
hands if you're her children.
No, don't. Don't do that.
Okay, we've got them over here. Okay. Hi.
This is such an important moment for me as an entrepreneur and psychologist who has such a passion for story and the role that story plays in terms of shaping our lives. When this opportunity came up, I was just thrilled to be able to have this moment. So we're here to hear from you. Let's jump in.
Sure.
And
That
I'd
was
love
great,
to start
somebody
the
walking in
interview,
front of the camera.
as we often do with executives.
Thanks,
going
audience.
back a little bit to a young James Cameron and understanding we all have these pivotal moments that have the opportunity to kind of really shape us and shape our passions and the things that we really want to strive for. So I'd just love to understand if you can share with us what some of those kind of pivotal moments were for you.
Okay, so set the Wayback Machine for the mid-'60s, Southern Ontario, Canada. And, you know, I was just a kid in a suburban house, small family, kind of, I would say, working class / lower middle class neighborhood. And, you know, it's just my window on the world was TV and like National Geographic magazines, all the exploration and amazing photography. I used to really look forward to that. Comic books, movies, which were all on TV at that time. Now, at this particular moment, there were 3 channels, 1 in Canada and 2 from New York State. That was it. So whenever a science fiction film came on, didn't matter if it was on at 2 o'clock in the morning, I would stay up and watch it. It drove my parents crazy. But anything to do with science fiction and fantasy for me. And I read a lot. I lived outside of, it was Niagara Falls, but I lived in a little village outside Niagara Falls, so it was an hour each way.
We got a quick sidebar here that I just realized, or not realized, but remembered. James Cameron's got 2 brothers, and at least one of them works on his films with him. Did you know that? No, I didn't know that. I'm kind of curious what they look like.
Bus to school when I was in high school, and I would read a book a day. I gave myself a goal of reading a book a day, and they were always science fiction books. And even though I loved history and geography and stuff in school, I didn't read, you know, historical fiction, that sort of thing. It was all steady diet of science fiction. So the things I was seeing in my head, in my own imagination, were things that came along later in movies with this strong sense of recognition for me, like 2001: A Space Odyssey, and then eventually Star Wars. You know, Star Wars crashed into the human consciousness with these space battles and laser fights and all that sort of thing. I was already seeing all that stuff in my head because I grew up on a steady diet of science fiction. So not only a sense of familiarity, not to take away from George Lucas's creativity, of course, but where everybody else had this sense of shock, for me it was like, oh wow, I can make some money with the stuff that's running in my head. And you know, so I started painting and drawing and trying to get down on paper or on canvas some of the things that I'd been thinking about, because it was a sense of validation. Okay, well, you know, if this can be the highest grossing film in the movie, I mean in the world, this movie, I can do that. You know, I don't know where that cognitive leap comes, you know, where you go from being a fan to that moment where the light bulb filament starts to glow and you say, I can do that.
Yeah.
You know, but that's the critical moment. That's the most important moment, I think, for anybody in any field that they go into, is that critical moment where you go from just being curious about it and absorbing it and watching what other people are doing to that cognitive leap that, well, I could do it. I don't know how you know you can do it. That's the tricky part, right?
Do you think it was one critical moment for you, or do you think it was a series of?
It's a series of them, and it builds up a sense of reinforcement. And then, of course, there's tons and tons of doubt in between, and nobody's gonna, you know. And being in a little village in Canada, it didn't seem possible. There was literally.
That's the secret. It's Canada. Damn it! Why wasn't I born in Ontario, Canada?
No connection to the entertainment industry whatsoever. And then one day my mom picked me up from work. I was working in a kitchen at a big restaurant, and at the age of 15, and she said, I've got something that I need to talk to you about. And I said, okay, actually I guess I was 16. She said, we're thinking of moving to Los Angeles. And I said, is it? I don't know, but I think, isn't Hollywood near Los Angeles? And she said, well, we're not sure, honey, but we think it might be in Los Angeles. I'm like, okay, I'm in. Let's go.
That was enough.
Forget all my friends and, you know, the entire place I grew up in and everything I ever knew. We're moving to Los Angeles. And that's kind of what happened. I don't think it was really quite as democratic as she made me believe at the time. I think they'd already pretty much decided, but.
Let's just talk about some of the conditions that were around you. So I heard you say.
Quick interruption, and I only do this. This is not directly related to what he's talking about, although he's talking about his life right now, his beginnings. I do this because I forget. My brain is just like, here's your thought. If you don't act on it, you know, in 5 seconds, you're going to forget it. Which, oh my God, it's already starting to happen. I mentioned in one of these episodes that I think it was Avatar: The Way of Water, actually, or maybe it was a reaction, but I wasn't sure if Cameron had kids. He does have kids. He has multiple kids, 2 of which are with Linda Hamilton. Fun fact. Another fun fact, his 3 wives have all been you know, they worked with him at some stage. His first wife, Gail Ann Hurd, was his producer for his first couple films. Second wife was Linda Hamilton, actress for a couple films. His third wife, another actress in Titanic. And I think I maybe have seen her in one other movie, so I don't know. I guess she doesn't really need to work. I don't know. Don't remember seeing that actress who is Susie Amos and anything else. Actually, her look, she has like a good look, and I don't know. I liked her in Titanic, even though it was extremely small, and she said a couple things. It was a good look. I guess we can say that she was his muse in that because he ended up with her, and at the time he was with Linda Hamilton. Interesting.
You had time to explore, time to be curious, time to kind of read. You read a book a day.
Curiosity drove everything.
Yeah.
Right? So when I wasn't reading, I was out in the woods, I was studying nature, I was collecting plants and leaves and butterflies and snakes and anything that walked, flew, crawled. I had one at one point, and then I'd study them under my microscope. I was studying pond water and drawing pictures of all the little protozoa.
What is it to be the kids of James Cameron? One must wonder. The multiple kids that there are from the different wives. My dad's the most successful filmmaker of all time. Avatar. $3 billion. You seen that movie? That's... Let me be a fly on the wall in that family.
And things like that. Just
my dad's explored subs or explored underwater. He's seen the Titanic.
Super curious about the world. And I couldn't read enough about it. And school
Linda
wasn't terribly
Hamilton's my
satisfying
mom.
on some of these things because they had their way of teaching. My wife founded a school in California called the Muse School, which is based on following what kids are interested in.
All
if
of
you're
our
interested in pond water and
moms are
microscope, you can learn biology
in his movies or
at
work with
lightning
him.
speed compared to, this is a ribosome. I mean, the classic sort of didactic approach to teaching and rote memorization and so on. And so her approach to education just would have made so much sense to me at that time, because I was really self-motivated around trying to figure out how the world worked.
And that curiosity hasn't gone away. It's
No,
still
not at
there
all.
Today,
Not at all. Hey, let's see what's down at the bottom of the deepest place in the ocean. That'll be cool, right, guys?
Well, this is it. You
That would
write,
be
you
cool.
direct, you produce. You're an ocean,
I would feel
underwater
very
ocean explorer.
claustrophobic.
They're
but
very
I
different
would like to do
disciplines
that.
in the sense that one, is exploration,
not now, after that.
investigation, and I'm
What
not
was
a
that
scientist
called? The
by
sub
training,
disaster
but
that just
I know a
happened?
lot of science.
I'm
I always say on
forgetting
my
already.
expeditions, I know more geology than the biologist,
Gate or
and I
something?
know more biology than the geologist on the expeditions. Because they're highly specialized fields, and I'm more of a generalist. But I love to give access to scientists to these places that they don't normally get grant funding to go and investigate and take samples and so on. So for me, the curiosity's never stopped. And I probably would have been perfectly happy just like leaving filmmaking forever and never coming back.
No,
just to follow
don't ever
that,
say that again.
Yeah, exactly, and it is a passion. But the Avatar film, I think not only did it make a lot of money, but that was more of a metric of like how many people it touched around the world in all kinds of different cultures around these ideas of nature, connection with each other, connection with nature.
Speaking on that, why did it touch people all around the world? I guess it's the simple story that he ripped off from Dances with Wolves and Pocahontas and Fern Gully, huh? I'm going to make a video. I've already talked about it in the Avatar exploration. Check it out, listen to it, whatever. 6 reasons why that doesn't matter. I'm going to do a separate video, again, hammering that on the head even more. We don't have to get into it right now because I already have, and we'll cover it even more. But there are many reasons why that's the case.
Nature at a time when we're basically destroying nature.
It's not because he's too unskilled or dumb to make a original story. There's a reason why that was done. Being unoriginal is not one of them. The Terminator, prime example. That concept came from him. Had time paradoxes existed before then, and robots and AI? Yeah. Was it melded together like that movie was? No.
Only possible. I thought, okay, I really need to go back and do that. That felt like a calling,
I want to talk about that for a second because we talk a lot in business life about purpose and how important purpose is, and purpose can be something that we hold up here. And I recently had a conversation where someone described their purpose to me as fire, and they talked about it coming from the soul, that it actually was in here and it came from inside.
I think that's true.
And yeah, if you could just share a view on when it comes to the things that motivate you, like the projects that you're thinking about and when you absolutely have to do them, what sits behind that?
And I do want to apologize, not that it's even necessary, but I was talking for like 45 minutes. I don't know. I just think, I try to think as an audience member, like, holy shit, this guy's talking for 45 minutes just of his face. I don't know. If that bothered you, I apologize. I didn't actually mean to go that long without moving on.
Are the ones that you decide, no, this is one I have to do and I'm going to fight for it, even if it's difficult to pursue it?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, you know,
if it
I've
didn't
got
bother you,
lots of ideas.
God bless you. Thank you for
Some of them
watching.
are quite commercial.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily
Enjoying me
attracted
now.
to something because it's commercial. I might produce that film and let another filmmaker do it. But the things that I'm going to put my energy into, you know, day in, day out, it either, if it's a fictional story like Avatar, it has to have a higher purpose, which I think the Avatar films do. I think I don't delude myself that they're changing the world, but I do think they cast a very broad net. And even if only 1 in 10,000 people is somehow motivated to protect nature or to dedicate.
Do we want to get in this topic, what he just said there? They're not changing the world. We don't want movies to change the world. That's not their job. Can they plant an idea in your head? Can they move people emotionally to say, hey, the environment matters? Yes, they can do that. He does that in those movies effectively how it should be done. That's the problem, I think, with most movies today is people think they can change the world with a movie. It ruins the movie. It wastes people's time. Because ultimately, the main point is to entertain, and people seem to forget that in a lot of modern movies. Therein lies the art. How can you say whatever you want to say? How can you show humankind how you want to show it? How can you show society how you want to show it and steer it in a direction that you think is better without alienating people, without beating them over the head, without boring them? That's all the issues that we got going on today is that art has been lost on many people, or maybe they're just too impatient or whatever. They've been manipulated, they've been brainwashed, they've been toxified, but it's killing a lot of movies right now. And studios, make no mistake, they don't give a shit about that. What they care about is money. If they think this is going to make them more money, if they think it's going to get the Twitter trolls and whatever else off their back, they're going to do it. Simple fact, for money, nothing else. They do not care about you or your problems or whatever's going on in society. Don't ever forget that. But what they're doing is aiding and abetting the downfall of movies and entertainment. Resist. That's what I can say. You can still have your art. You can still say what you want to say. Just don't forget how to do that. There's art to that.
Themselves to conservation, to wildlife, to helping prevent species extinction or whatever it is. If they go into that field, then it served a purpose because it's a very very broad net that's across all cultures and so on. So I've decided to continue in that IP. So we're doing Avatar 3 right now. It's actually all shot. I'm in post-production. Avatar 4 is partially shot. Avatar 5 is written and fully designed. So we'll go on to that in due course. But then the other stuff that we're doing is more in the sort of natural history, documentary, unscripted area. And we did an Emmy-winning series called The Secrets of Whales, Secrets of the Whales, a couple of years ago.
Of course you did.
That one
Secrets
delved
of the
into
Toucan.
whale culture, how whales are intelligent, communicative, musical, and how they have
as
culture
intelligent
that's
as
specific.
toucan.
When I say culture, it's literally specific
Toucan
things
are smarter
that
than
are
us.
passed down generationally to
We
help
just
with
got
the
dumb
survival
whales
of
as
the
smart as
family,
they
the
are here.
clan, whatever. And we were actually able to film these teaching moments where the matriarch was teaching the young whales how to do a certain thing that no other whales in the world do of the same species, but they're doing it in one place. And we found numerous examples of that. So that's true.
Which is kind of funny. I mentioned it last week with the toucan and how it's comical how the scientist is literally saying, oh yeah, these guys, they feel more deeply than us. They're smarter than us. They have so many more pathways and they're more spiritual. Like all this stuff. And then they're like drilling into their brain because obviously we look down on killing intelligent species that we deem intelligent on Earth. Monkeys, dolphins, whales, actually a lot of different mammals, especially whales because aside from their blubber, we don't eat whale, most cultures, I guess. and they are known to be intelligent, just like dolphins and stuff like that. And honestly, they're just majestic. You see them, they're just doing their own thing. They're eating krill. They're not killing surfers and shit like sharks. And yeah, you don't want to kill those guys. And I mean, are they considered? I think they're the biggest species on Earth, I think, since the dinosaurs don't exist anymore. So yeah, they're majestic. Which just makes it funny that he made the film and made the alien whales call them Coon and said they're even smarter than humans, and instead of even having any kind of second thought, they're drilling into their brains. I don't know. It's just funny to me. He's like really hitting the head over like, these humans are evil. They're killing the Coon.
Culture in the sense of something which is...
Those guys are so smart, by the way, that they made a pact that they won't kill each other or other things. You know, I think that's a pretty dumb thing. Maybe you can apply that to other Coon, but any other species, that's off the table, bro. Because then they'll just kill the shit out of you and you have nothing to do about it. That's not smart.
And passed down, which is very interesting.
And if I look at the films, whether it be the documentaries or you know, the broad portfolio of films that you have produced, they're all very visionary, but they're very, very different. Terminator is very, very different to
Terminator,
Titanic,
Machine
very
Guns.
Intelligent. Probably, I don't know. How do you measure intelligence exactly? Maybe they're more intelligent than whales. Probably. I'd say they're a little more likely to be eaten. Octopus. I might have even eaten an octopus once. I don't know. Certainly squid. But they just taste so good. Okay. The fact that they're so smart makes them taste better.
But it feels like there's some unifying themes.
Now, when it comes to that, it's like, it's already dead. They're serving it here. It tastes good. I'm going to eat it. I'm not going to go out there and kill it myself. I just wouldn't do that. I'll kill a cow if I have to, but I'm not going to kill an octopus or a whale or a dolphin. I'm sorry. The cow seems like it was created to be eaten, unfortunately. I would have trouble killing a cow. I wouldn't like it, but I like steak and beef.
Behind them, do you want to talk about some of the themes that are really important for you to get across when you think about something that...
What is it called when you have a young cow? Like the meat? I'm forgetting. That is one thing I would just be like, that's off the table. I'm not going to kill a young cow. But again, if it's already dead, I might eat it. It's already dead.
Moves an audience or moves humans.
I think all of them have one theme in common, which is technology is a double-edged sword for us. That it threatens our humanity, but it's also an expression of the highest part of our humanity, our consciousness, our ability to create technology and manipulate the natural world, but it also could be our downfall. So very stark in the Terminator films, obviously. I mean, the main character of the Terminator is a cyborg. He's part living organism and part machine, obviously. But it's but even in Titanic, we see the faith that they put in technology in the early part of the 20th century, and how everything was going to be great, and everything was so optimistic, and they had wireless. New idea, you know, and they had these magnificent ships.
Veal, there it is.
Nature, but of course, nature.
I knew that word. I just again.
You know, and then they go through the stages of denial and then acceptance and then
veal. I'm pretty sure I have had veal, and it's
so
good.
in my mind, the entire time, the movie Titanic, was kind of a metaphor for climate change and all of the things
the veal myself.
that we can't predict that are the consequences of our actions. And when things move too fast and have so much momentum, and we can't steer fast enough to miss the iceberg, which we're sort of experiencing this kind of slow motion car crash right now, where we're not able to react quickly enough to these global threats. So you know, there's a little bit of a dark theme, but the positive theme that I think runs through all my movies is human capability. Under duress, when we're pushed to the wall, we can work together, we can be ingenious, and we can find a way out of it. And that's a theme that I always like. Some filmmakers, you know, I watch their films, they may be very well made, but if they have a bleak perspective about humanity, I usually don't like those films. I always tend to be much more optimistic about our capability, our humanity, our...
I don't know. I would say Terminator is pretty bleak. You're literally saying our future is doomed. Especially since AI is inevitable. It's just like cell phones. There's no stopping it. It's, if you don't do it, somebody else will. But unless you consider the special or the ultimate edition of Terminator 2 with the alternate ending, where it kind of showed it like, hey, it's over. Terminator 2 is kind of bleak. I mean, it's kind of, I guess you could take it both ways. It's shown that the future as it's said, and they just destroyed Skynet, or so they think, by doing what they did, but ultimately they just delayed it. Because really, if you think about it, that's literally what they just did. Maybe they took away the, ARM and the CPU from the future that accelerated everything. But just like our current real life, like, AI is inevitable. All they did was delay it. So yeah, I'd say the Terminator is pretty bleak. It may be our real future.
Empathy for each other and how that drives us to do extraordinary things and often even sacrifice.
Well, the Terminator, I was mainly speaking on, yeah, he was sent back in the first one to kill Sarah Connor. But as we learned when we watched the movies, the ARM was recovered, the CPU was recovered in the sequel, and they used that to accelerate, which again, it's the time paradox and how that affects Terminator 2, because John Connor wouldn't exist if Kyle Reese never comes back. But then things change in the sequel where they kind of, in my mind, they leave out certain things. But I've talked about it before, and there's literally people just waiting to debate that kind of stuff, and it's still a paradox at the end of the day, so you're just never going to know. It's just, you can't even fathom that. That's what a paradox is, basically. It's just like a loop. But they accelerate, or if you take what T2 does, they accelerate what would have happened because they found the CPU, and they reverse engineered it and all that. But in my mind, I kind of look at it like that was meant to happen. It was meant for them. I don't even view it as accelerating. Just like how Kyle Reese had to come back for John Connor to be born in the future. But with that same logic, then the ARM and the CPU would have had to have been found for that future to exist also. So in my mind, it's not even accelerating. That's just how it was always going to go down. Which, again, having said that, that would mean in Terminator 2, sneak peek to I'm going to be doing a breakdown of the paradox and different, branches of it. That would also mean that what happened in Terminator 2 with them destroying, the research and Miles Dyson dying and all that was also meant to happen, and Skynet is still going to happen because it's inevitable. In my mind, that's how it works. Yeah, AI is just, it's unpredictable, so it's just literally impossible to know, but it's going to do good things, it's going to do terrible things. So what those end up being, I guess we're going to live it.
Ourselves out of a sense of duty or whatever it is. That's a theme through all my films as well. So there's obviously the negative about technology, but sometimes technology, which again is a manifestation of us and our consciousness, sometimes it comes to the rescue. Sigourney Weaver in Aliens couldn't have fought that big bad alien queen without that power loader. So I like robotics, I like technology. It's a bit of a love-hate relationship for me, and I think it's really also just.
Well, there's some more evidence to what I was talking about earlier. That power loader, that's an example. That's something he brought. That's something he wanted to exist in it. That wasn't like a guaranteed thing. Like, oh, of course, there's going to be a power loader suit fight. Like, that's something he wanted to bring to it, where they made. Still, it's like that movie kind of blows my mind with those effects, how well done they are. It was a combination of practical effects, puppet, claymation. But it's blended so well. It's honestly, the first couple times I watched it, I completely missed. I wasn't like, oh yeah, there's the puppeteer, there's the claymation thing, there's the greens. Like, I was just taking it for what it was because that's how well done it was. Like that, for the longest time, I was like, oh yeah, the power suit, they built that and it actually worked. Like, no, it didn't work. I mean, not how you see it in the movie. It was being puppeteered, and certain shots were claymation and stuff. And yeah, Skynet is being built now. Essentially, that's inevitable too, because if you think about it, AI is so powerful, it can calculate things essentially instantly, including military choices. It can pilot drones better than a human can. Things like that. If a military is using that and you're not, because you're like, AI is bad, we're not going to support this, well, then they're just going to destroy you. So it's like, it's inevitable. You have to use it because other people are going to use it. If anything, you want to prevent other people from using it and you have it. Hopefully that's us, you know, not someone else like Russia or China. But it's all inevitable. There's no reason they will not use it because they all want superiority. That's the only way in the future that they're going to get it. That mixed with robotics, drones. I mean, it's pretty bleak, honestly. In the future, it's going to be whoever has the most drones wins. Because if you can amass thousands of drones, and there's no way you can shoot them all down. So whoever has the most drones wins. They'll just be like, oh yeah, you're not going to listen to us? We're going to launch 10,000 drones at you right now while we're bombing this other area. You're screwed. But maybe with AI, you can also create some kind of defense where it levels the playing field. Who knows? Again, we're going to have to live it. Hallelujah.
A warning that
Thanks,
can't
James
be too
Cameron.
seduced by technology. And we were talking about this before we came on. The idea that technology can come to our rescue against all of these problems is not necessarily the healthiest approach. I think we have to connect with each other and work together.
Well, not only can it outperform, it's, again, a game of who's got the most money. Because you're not losing any human life. You're losing money, essentially, by your drones being destroyed. So even if it take, you know, them performing better than a human can off the table, there's also that element. You're not wasting your lives. You're wasting money by your drones being destroyed or not destroyed. But whether they perform better, you know, Top Gun Maverick flirted with that, where it's like, well, they can't. Humans, there's always something about a human that an AI thing can't compete with because of they can realize the logical conclusion and then make a different choice because of whatever reason. Yeah, there is that. But one thing that they always will have the advantage for is just how fast they can come to these conclusions. They can calculate things faster than any human can. So aside from them, you know, performing better, if they essentially don't in every task, they can make those decisions quicker. They don't get afraid. Fear will never stop them. Morals will never stop them, aside from what's programmed into them. They're just going to perform the task, and that's it.
And have empathy for each other, even people that we don't know that are outside of our in-group. You know, because I see so much polarization in the world. In order for my group to succeed, this group over here is the enemy. They must fail, or they must be held down, or whatever it is. And we're seeing that. You know,
well, right now.
Technology is only going to be as good as how we wield it. You know, and it can be weaponized, and it can do great good. It can save lives, medicine, and so on. And you know, and we're living at a rate of change that's so extreme that it's dizzying. And so I think it's critical for us to hold on to that center, you know, to value each other, to value our families, to value how other people on the other side of the world value their families. That's the critical. I think empathy is a great thing, but often the spotlight of empathy is much too narrow. It's just a tight circle around our in-group. You know, whether it's our race or our religion or our country or our political party, you know, we have to expand that to a floodlight. You know, I call it, I'm borrowing from Jacinda Ardern quite liberally here when she coined the team of 5 million during the pandemic in Aotearoa. I call it the team of 8 billion. We need to all be part of the same team, you know, because we're all crew on the same spaceship.
Connected islands.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just keeping with this theme of connection and empathy and how that's kind of core to what's important from a human perspective, I've seen that evolve in your movies too. So if I think even just, you know, Avatar, you know, you wrote it originally, I think in 1995 or around
Yeah,
that.
it was written in 95, yeah, the story, yeah.
And then, you know, the first movie was a huge success in terms of highest grossing film, and that's kind of gone on to be this, what they're calling the Avatar universe.
Well, it is its own universe now. The big leap and the big risk in making the second film, and then the third and the fourth really flow out of the second film more than out of the first, was the idea of switching that spotlight of, you know, more toward the love within a family, and the dysfunction within a family, you know. But, you know, Jake Sully says the family is our fortress. And, you know, that's just a response to me where I am in my life with 5 kids and a big extended family on my wife's side and my side, and just dealing with you know, all of the human drama around family, and sometimes it doesn't seem worth it, you know, and you can't pick your family. You can pick your friends, but you can't pick your family, you know, and then feeling the kind of core strength that comes from that. And it was a big risk because if you think about what Hollywood generally does is they target the young demographic. Action films are typically driven by your classic action film aficionado is 18 male, you know. So if you're writing for a female audience, if you're writing for an older audience, you're starting to move off the you know, the center of it being financially successful. And so if you look at, and I've said this many times, if you look at the comic book universe, typically people don't have family relationships. They don't have feet of clay as superheroes because their kids hold them back or whatever. It's, you know, they have strong friendships that they fight for, and sometimes there'll be even a romantic relationship that they'll fight for, but they're not held down by the reality of life that most of us are. And so, you know, Hollywood thinks they have to write for
Shaka Zulu.
You know,
yeah, definitely
teens and 20-somethings. It's like, all right, fine. I'd say 99% of people in their teens and 20s had parents, and they probably didn't get along very well, or maybe they did, or maybe it was sporadic, right? But every single one of those older people, not every single one of them, but a lot of them are parents. And
I think in general, whoever has the most bodies wins, no matter their technological level. You know, short of them dropping a nuke on them, which, okay, sure. But if you're just talking about force, because eventually they got to reload. They can mow down, you know, tons of the opposite force, but eventually they got to reload. And if there's just nonstop streams coming, they're going to overwhelm them at some point. That's basically what happened with Russia and in the World War II. They just kept throwing bodies at their enemy until they prevailed. So that's just generally true with anything. Again, short of dropping a nuke.
They've certainly had friends that are parents and all that. So this is part of the fabric of life. So I said, we're going to lean into that. The more the story is set in a fantastic environment, the more it has to be grounded in humanity. And so it didn't seem like a risk to me, but it seemed like a risk to everybody else, especially, you know, the people writing the big fat check to make that kind of film. And it paid off. People related to it. And while they loved the fantasy elements of the underwater and all that, where it really worked for them is they were bawling their eyes out at the end of the movie. You know, large portions of the audience were. And so, you know, to me, that's my success metric on that, is that we hit the heart.
Every time I've seen it, that's happened to me.
Visual cortex.
And what I'm hearing you say when you talk about that is you have to give some of your heart to get to the heart of it. So you spoke about it being about family and the context of connecting it to your own family and your lived experience.
I couldn't have written that film 25 years ago, you know, before we had our family.
My question is, with so many...
Yeah, that definitely shapes everything, is once you have your own. That's why it's funny when people speak that don't have it, or like people that are like, I don't want kids, or I'm never going to get married, which you don't have to get married, but that if you're also saying you're never going to have a long-term partner or whatever, because it shapes you in ways you don't realize until it actually happens to you, and there's no way for you to fathom it, no matter how smart you think you are. People that pop into my mind that are like that are people like Bill Maher. Notoriously hates kids, never's going to get married, you know, long-term partners, nope. And he says all these things and blah, blah, blah. It's like, you can't know. It's impossible for you to know until you experience it. So to say that you don't want that, it's impossible for you to actually mean that until you do it. And granted, there's people that do that, and it's terrible for them, and it doesn't work out. But you will never know that until you actually do it. And ultimately, it's the way to go for most people. It's literally the one human duty that you're failing to do if you don't do it. How do you keep the human species alive? You just mate. That's it. That's your one job in life. Ultimate job is just reproduce. If you're not doing that, you're not really helping the human race. I mean, with the core thing that you should be doing, or raising kids, helping the next generation. If you're not helping the next generation, we're all doomed. And yeah, you can help human race and the next generation in different ways, but there's the core idea that most people do that you're not doing. Because it's literally a duty. It's not just like, life-wise, it's more satisfying, I think. I don't even think, it's a universal truth, whether you realize it or not. Your life will be more satisfying as hard as it is in the beginning, or can be. But it's also just a human duty, like, to reproduce. To any species, that's their duty, is reproduce. If you don't reproduce, you're dead.
Executives in the room who, you know, we have our work self and we go in and we
Right.
put our veneer on and we're professional and all of those things. At the end of the day, we go home and hug our kids and, you know, we go to the movies with them and we cry with them.
Compartmentalized between the two environments.
Absolutely. What do you think is important in terms of leadership roles, in terms of bringing some of that emotional connection in?
I think you have to see the people you work with as complete people. If they have kids, talk to them about their kids, you know. Have a complete relationship with them, not a compartmentalized working relationship. I think that's really important, and that's not intuitive. I don't know if they teach that in business school. There's a lot of knowledge that's passed down that's kind of strategic, a lot of leadership lessons. But I think the important thing is to see everyone you work with, see them as people, ask them about their lives. If there's a problem,
So
in their
that's
life,
where it came from.
You know, talk to them about it.
Connected.
You know, not in a creepy way, you know, but in an open way. I mean, I share my
How's your
life
kids?
problems and my relationship with my kids and stuff like that with
Yeah.
the other people.
It's
I
easy
work
not
with.
to make it creepy.
So, you
Just
know,
don't do what
we
I
call
just
it
did.
the Avatar family. We have a kind of weird extended family. We all know each other. We worked together so long. We're at about the 17-year mark at this point because we started in earnest in 2006. And it's the
every
same
day.
team now.
Yeah, so how's
but
your
it was
kids?
then. It's
They go to
more
the
or less
bathroom?
same cast.
Did
It's
they
the
do
same,
it a lot?
Technical team, the core team. A lot of the peripheral
How do
folks
you make that weird?
you know, kind of come and go. They move through and they'll move on to other effects communities and that sort of thing. But our core team is very loyal. You know, they all came back after the first production. Part of that was the glow of success, but it was also that glow of accomplishment. They felt good about what they had done. They knew they were at the cutting edge. They knew that they were doing something that had never been tried before, that was very disruptive, and that we were successful at it. And we knew that we hit obstacles that seemed insurmountable, and then we figured out our way through it. And that's a bonding experience. I found the same experience on like the expedition projects when some really hard problem comes up and we work our way through it and we solve it and we take our machines into the deep ocean and we operate them and we bring back the imagery or the science, whatever it is, whatever our goal is. When we succeed at that, you're connected to those people. And I love that feeling. To me, that's almost the greater metric of success, really, that you come out of a project with a sense of having done something with other people and having this deep and abiding respect for them and knowing that they respect you, meaning in my case, me, right? Because I've earned their respect, not because I'm the boss, not because they've been told I'm the director, but because they've seen me roll my sleeves up and get in there with them and help them solve the problem.
Is that different now to in the early movies?
In the earlier movies, I mean, we all had to work together because we didn't have the kinds of resources that we had later. But I think I put the movie first. There's a weird thing that happened. There was a transition point after Titanic where the movie was now not the most important thing anymore. The most important thing was the day-to-day process of the making of the movie with the team. And that's a big shift. That's a big shift for a filmmaker. Because when you're starting out, it's all about that end result. And you'll do anything to get that end result. And maybe that makes you impatient. You know, I don't think I ever did any sort of ad hominem attacks against people, but I know I was impatient, right? And, you know, and toughness is even celebrated, right? And I always say that, you know, Hollywood is a bad environment because it gives a lot of positive reinforcement for bad behavior. And as long as you're successful, it doesn't matter. You know, so I had a big reboot after Titanic. I took an 8-year hiatus from movie making and did documentaries, which isn't really a hiatus from filmmaking. It's just doing a different type of filmmaking. And there it was about creating new technology, new cameras, new lights, new robotic vehicles and that sort of thing, testing it, making sure it all worked, taking it into the deep ocean, bringing back spectacular imaging, things people had never seen before, taking scientists with us. And my only requirement, which was the same one that Jacques Cousteau had, was you have to publish. You're not just out here hanging around. You have to publish something fresh. And that was our rule. But coming off the end of that 8 years, you know, feeling like I had learned a lot about small team management and innovation with small dedicated teams, and then bringing that back into my film work subsequently, I think has been really helpful. So sometimes you got to go stand outside yourself or live that different life of the mind and tasking yourself differently, and then bring those lessons back and find where they apply. And it was striking how much what I learned with small teams doing, you know, innovation in robotics and optics and so on, and then taking it all out to sea, the harshest environment known for technology or against technology. Salt water, extremely high pressures. Building a sub to go to the deepest place on the planet, which was built here in Sydney, over in Leichhardt, in a little commercial space with a roll-up door in between a plywood supplier and I think a heating and air conditioning company on the other side. And we built the machine that could go deeper than any other machine on the planet. Which also brings up that issue of it's like I like to work with people who don't know where the boundaries are. That just somehow fundamentally believe that they can do something that nobody's ever done, and why not? So it was a fairly young team of engineers, some of them fresh out of uni, some of them from right here in Sydney Uni, in robotics and electronics and things like that. Our chief electronics engineer, who did the entire electronic system for the entire vehicle, all communications, all thrusters and control systems and robotic arms and all that stuff, looked like he was about 12. He wasn't. I think he was 26. Young
He was
man.
the right person.
Yeah, a guy named Nick Bingham. And I also did something pretty radical in that project. I got all these young people, male and female, our engineering team, and it was like we were doing new material science, we were doing new electronics that had to be depth qualified, new optics, new cameras, 3D cameras this big, a 3D camera that big that could withstand the full pressure at full ocean depth of 16,500 pounds per square inch. And they were all young. I'd say all of them had never worked on a human-occupied submersible before. Some had done robotics and ROVs and that sort of thing. And some of them had done like battery systems for buses, right? But an Electron doesn't know the difference. But they were all young and eager and didn't know what they didn't know, and they didn't care, And I told them that we could do this, and I looked them in the eye and I said, "You can do this. That's why you're on the team," and that made a big difference for them.
Absolutely. Now I've got so many more questions I could keep asking you, but I promised you that we would ask some questions from the room as well. So, whilst you think of a question, I'm just going to ask one last one to get us going. When you think about the young people in the room, right early on when we started talking, you mentioned the word doubt. Of course, you have these doubts.
Right.
What would be your?
We were talking backstage about sometimes.
Well,
I'm going to say kids, but I mean maybe teens, 20.
These people are lucky I wasn't there. I would have just been in the room like,
figuring out who you are. Yeah. I mean, people do have a lot of self-doubt. And
Mr. Cameron.
And there may not be a lot of evidence to the outer world that you could actually do something. But if you believe you can do it, you can do it. If you believe you can't do it, you won't. You either won't start the process.
I don't really have a question, but
you'll
can you
cave
just
in
make me you?
And I don't think, with all due respect to the parents in the room, I don't think it's something your parents can supply, because, I'm putting on. I was a teenager once. I never believed the damn thing my parents said when they said, "Honey, you can do it." It's like, Mom, you don't know.
I think I'm great anyway.
Yeah. So I think teachers are important. I think role models out in the world are important. But I also just think, it's easy to say believe in yourself. I think it's harder now than it's ever been, if I had to guess. And I'm not a child psychologist or a psychologist trained in the issues of young people. But when I was writing Titanic, the book that I reread over and over was a book called Reviving Ophelia, and it's a book about about how young women go through a change from being very confident in their prepubescent years, being very curious and feeling very capable, and then society, school, peer pressure, trying to fit the role that's expected of them in order to find a mate, and all the things that society requires. It kind of crushes their spirit of curiosity and competence. But I think it's a bigger problem now. I think that guys and gals are facing this issue of, who am I? What do I have to add to the world? There's 8 billion people on the planet. People are so creative. I don't have that. It's like everybody has got something
special.
It's got something, and it may not be what your parents want you to be.
But nobody has what you got.
I think that's an important thing for parents to think about as well.
Apparently.
My child is going to go to the best university and be CEO of the company by the time they're 35. They may not want that. The epiphany for me is my wife Susie's an educator. She started a school in California called the Muse School, and she uses something called the process communications model, which I would encourage everybody to check out. It was created by a guy named Tavy Kaler, initially for selecting astronaut crews when they went up to the space shuttle, and they were going to have 7 people and a pressure cooker of training and then on the mission and that sort of thing. And it's a very interesting model for understanding interpersonal communication. And basically there's a lot of people that literally cannot hear a logical argument. It doesn't work for them. It sounds strange because we think we're logical, but we're not. There's only 10% of people who are satisfied with a purely logical argument. most people have, there's all sorts of different personality. Kind of think of it as, what's your channel, what's your frequency. Some kids learn tactilely. They have to be physically doing something with their body. Some kids are best left on their own in an imaginer state. And at Susie's school, if you want to sit on a pillow underneath the table during the class, that's okay. They'll run the personality profile. And it's not a way of pigeonholing people. It's shared very openly, and the teachers all go through it as well. It's everybody trying to open their channels of communication to each other and their abilities, how they learn best. Some people are more auditory, some people are more visual. Some people do process some people need order. They crave order. Some people crave disorder, and we're all born different. And so part of it, I think, is finding out how you hear, how you process, how you communicate, and then making sure that the people around you understand what your best channel is as well. Some people need a directive. They need something to do. You have to tell them what to do. Other people, they don't want to be told what to do. They reject authority. But everybody will learn and prosper and bring their best game once they understand how they hear and process, and once everybody around them does as well. So I would also recommend this type of model being studied by team leaders, bosses, and so on, because sometimes it's like yelling at a fish, it doesn't do the fish any good, doesn't do you any good, because you're not communicating, right? And so I think that's a really critical thing. And I was saying it in my remarks to the larger group, seeing the people that you work with and understanding them as total people, letting them understand you and see your own vulnerabilities. I also find I've been doing this a lot in the last decade. I'm not always right. And if I'm wrong, and if I've made a mistake, especially if I've been a little hard on somebody, don't apologize privately. Apologize publicly. Get the whole group together and say, okay, I was wrong about this, and own it, and own it to the group. Because then you're all on a level playing field of respect. The hierarchy doesn't go away, but people feel more, kind of more empowered, I think, in that scenario.
There's a lot in there to think about.
That was a very long stream of consciousness from James Cameron. Excuse me. And having said that, sadly, I need to segue, as this has been very interesting to listen to him. This is a very good wealth of knowledge interview of him. But these can't go on forever, can they? No, they can't, because I have kids that need to go to bed and stuff. So I have to segue to this. How does he do it? How does James Cameron do it? Are we ever going to know that question? No, I don't think so. You can watch every James Cameron interview. You can talk to him personally. I don't think we're ever going to know the answer to that question, because AWA doesn't want us to. We can't be a god like James Cameron. No. I don't know. I really don't. I wish I could figure that out, not just so I could, monetarily do anything like that. It's just because when you make something, what do you want? When you make a film, when you make a piece of art, when you take a photo, what is the reason for doing that? Is it just so you can do it, have it exist, and put it up on your wall and only you see it? No. You do it because you want other people to see it. You want to connect with other people. You want to show them something. You want to express yourself. You want to express something, an idea. So if you look at the success of James Cameron's films, don't even look at it monetarily. Look at it like he's the most successful filmmaker of all time to ever express himself, to ever show whatever he wants to show, whether it's an idea, whether it's the human condition, whether it's a concept he came up with, whether it's something he thinks that is important, like the environment. Money talks, and what it's saying is that millions upon millions of people have watched his content, more so than anybody else. His films. I shouldn't have called it content. His films, his pieces of art, because that's what they are, whether people seem to realize that or not. So he's the most effective at doing that. So that is what that's the key to him, to what that actually means, is the most effective person to express themselves through cinema. And that's what I think is important to that. That's why I think it matters. That's why I think people should other filmmakers could, like myself, could look up to him because of that, because he's been the most successful at doing that, not because he's made the most money, or his films have. Who knows how much he's made, because I know, for example, Titanic, he says he didn't make anything because he had to forfeit his percentage and his income to just make that thing even happen. So Avatar, who knows? He could be the most rich director ever because of that, and he would be, you know, deserving of that. But, and even having said that, it's clear how he uses his money. It's not just to go live on a yacht somewhere. He wants to do good things, ultimately for humanity, to express the human condition to as many people as he can, and he's done that time and time again. And when it comes to Avatar, even specifically, or more specifically, The Way of Water, that's because, yeah, it's aliens, big blue aliens, and the humans are shown as evil. But really, the Avatar Na'vi people, they're essentially humans, the way that they are, you know, because they have to be, for us to relate to them. So that's why they look humanoid. That's why they kind of basically act like humans. They're being played by humans. They're essentially blue humans. So that's why we relate to them. And what it's showing is, as he says in this, as it says in the film, family is our fortress. That's a good line, because that's really what it is. It's the front line of humankind. It's necessary, not only necessary, but fulfilling. It's one of the most fulfilling things you can do as a human, and it's something that it's just ingrained in us because we have to do it to survive. And yeah, some people just can't for whatever reason, but essentially, you know, that's an unfortunate circumstance, but it doesn't change the core of the fact that that is what humans do. And the unfortunate people that can't do that, they can at least, you know, try to help humankind. They can maybe raise little humans, children, because that's just the card they were dealt, unfortunately. His films, specifically The Way of Water, actually have that at its heart. What does that have over Avatar? It's family. It's the focus on the family. And it's very effective because, like I mentioned earlier, I got choked up, not even choked up, if you watch the reaction that I did, cried. And I've done that 3 times. More so this last time, because the first time I watched it, I had my daughter, who was young, you know, less than a year. Now I have 2 kids, so it's just, it got me even more. And that's good. Most people, you know, they want to connect with other people, and that's different ways of doing that, different ways of expression, art, films, pictures, you know, cinema paintings. But when you introduce family, you have, once you know what that's like, it's just another layer of connecting. It's harder to be, you know, a dick. It's harder to be evil if you're any form of effective, you know, of a parent, because you're caring for this young human. You're the layer of empathy you have just expands, because it has to be, you know, a halfway decent parent, especially if it's a loving parent, however you want to phrase it. But and when you go through that, it causes, you know, things like movies. You just feel things more deeply in general. And the good thing about that is it lets in, it lowers your guard a little bit to let things in more so than if you don't have that, because you essentially care more deeply. If you can, God, even now it's like, just thinking about it and trying to talking about it, it's kind of choking me up a little bit. We gotta hold it in. But if you can care about, you know, the family you have, you can empathize with other people that have a family. Like, you don't want anything bad to happen to your kids. So that makes you realize, hey, I don't, you know, if something bad happened to those people's kids, that would be terrible, and I wouldn't want that. And in general, you just empathize more. So that expressing that element of the human condition in a film will never get old, even if it's been done a million times, even if it's a carbon copy of something else. Essentially, it's just part of the human condition. So if you have a story that's focused on that, yeah, it might feel familiar. It's a little bit different in The Way of Water, or compared to Avatar, because that element wasn't in it, which is a different argument, which again, I will have a specific video on that, going into even more detail. But in relation to James Cameron, to me, he's the most influential filmmaker of all time. That's in the stats. You don't have to like everything he's done. You don't have to say he's your favorite filmmaker. I think he's my favorite filmmaker. I think I can say that not even just because of his films, but because of kind of what I was just trying to express. What he's been able to do. He has had fantastic ideas, like the Terminator franchise. Fantastic expressions of characters and family and ideas all throughout his films, and hobbies and passions and careers. But yeah, it's not even so much because, like I've said in the beginning of this, I love so many other filmmakers, so many other films. It's not like I think every film he's made is like some god compared to every other film. It's just the culmination of him makes him, I can say, my favorite filmmaker. And honestly, a lot of people, I mean, it's different, I guess, if you're a filmmaker compared to just someone who, appreciates movies or something. But as a whole, you can say who has had the biggest impact on the world, and like him, I think. Not in terms of some grand idea, like, oh, the environment, that's important. Yeah, I didn't know that. Like, I'm not even saying it like that. Just in terms of what he's been able to make people appreciate and, feel in that regard. And I think that's something that a lot of people miss when they think about James Cameron. They just look at the, the core face value of the story and like, it's wolves in space. Lame. They're missing the bigger point, which is even more evident in a film like The Way of Water. And I think of, there's an interview, because he did something with Steven Spielberg, which I'm forgetting now. I don't know if it was a TV show or a little documentary thing, but he's like in a room with Steven Spielberg, and Spielberg's always doing this. They're talking about their movies, and he expressed some like love towards him, but I could just get the vibe like Spielberg's just like, yeah, I'm fucking Steven Spielberg. Like, my movies speak for themselves. I feel like other filmmakers, his peers, people similar to his level, don't look at him like, I don't know, like what he deserves, I think. I wouldn't even say how they should, but just what he deserves. Because he could be like, yeah, you're Steven Spielberg. I love Spielberg's movies. He's got so many greats. And that's his whole other thing. Believe me, we'll get into that in the Spielberg saga whenever the hell I do that. But he's James Cameron. Motherfucker, can I say that on the live? I don't know. Is that cool? You're Spielberg? He's James Cameron. I'm sorry, but technically he's been more influential than you on a global scale. Maybe not to filmmakers. Spielberg also obviously pioneered the golden age, in the 70s of auteurs, George Lucas, etc. Whole nother topic. But if you just want to look at the global impact, yeah, he's had many great franchises, Indiana Jones, yada, 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 many great films, Schindler's List, Saving Private Ryan. His entire filmography, except for the last 10 years. I never saw the one about his life, which I heard was good. But on a global scale, just thinking about audiences, James Cameron. Will he ever get that recognition from his peers? I don't know. Maybe when he dies and people look back, because that seems to be how things work. But having said that, I love the guy. We haven't, this is a retrospective to this point. he's still got years to go. Hopefully many. Hopefully he's the oldest living man on Earth, so he can just keep making films. Because I would love for him to finish the Avatar franchise, because I want to see what that looks like. But I also want to see what he does after that. I would love to get one more original film from James Cameron that's not Avatar. I want him, don't get me wrong, I want him to finish the franchise. Him, nobody else. But I want to see the last film that he does aside from that. I hope he lives long enough to get there, because Avatar is just taking forever. I think the world would greatly be in need and appreciative of that. I know I would. And having said that, I'm going to be doing a video essay on James Cameron after this. I don't know when it's going to come out, probably next week sometime. That just allows me to do something similar to this. Having some information you haven't heard in this if you've been listening or watching this whole time. Presented in a different way, you know, video essay format, a little more cinematic. Things I can do that I can't do on this. They're both different experiences. That's coming, a video essay. James Cameron, Mainstream Auteur. So you can look out for that if you're interested. But aside from that, wrapping this up, I'm going to be taking 2 to 3 week break from doing these live shows, Movie Explorer. Just so I can, because believe it or not, you know, once a week, it's not so bad. Well, when you have kids, when you have a full-time job that's not this, when you try to cram the stuff that I do with this, it takes its toll, and I haven't really been able to do anything else. I've loved doing this. Can't wait to continue it. But there's other things I want to do, and this is taking all the time away from that. You know, I'll throw in a movie reaction here and there. You can probably expect one of those before I come back from the live shows. But I also have a film that I shot that I haven't been able to edit. So I'm going to finish that up and probably write my next one. So yeah, just taking a little break. I don't know. I will be doing another saga of another filmmaker. I don't know who that is, so that'll just have to be a surprise. But I probably will do kind of an independent one or two before that. Or maybe during. I don't know. But you can expect another saga. You can expect some independent topic. Could be, you know, some general topic, or it could be a specific film. But you will find the schedule when I have that on my channel. So if you are interested, subscribe, follow me on social media. You'll stay updated on when the next episode is going to be. James Cameron, it's been fun. I've loved watching your entire filmography, with the exception of Piranha 2, but I will get there at some point. Dedicating multiple episodes to you. I love you, man. You know what would be cool? If I could meet that guy. Even if it's just, you know, the typical, hey, as he's walking by and he just looks over, and that would be cool. I'm not going to lie. I don't get starstruck. I don't care about celebrities. I probably would wet my pants if I ever had that opportunity with James Cameron. Just because, like I said, he's been so influential. It means a lot to me. His films, you know, not that he was doing it for me, but they inspired me in 2 different times in my life. So that's something I'll never forget. And he continues to do that now. I look forward to his next films, and like I said, I really hope he makes something else original. If you've been listening this whole time, joined in later, you follow me, or maybe you just found this video, thank you for watching. Thanks for following. Thanks for just being a part of this, because I do really enjoy it. I don't want it to seem like I don't or something because I said I'm taking a break. And I get it, you know, this is a long time. For some reason I feel kind of bad, like, people are watching me, but you know, that, I don't know, that's just the, you know, what do they say? Brain fart. I have those all the time. Imposter syndrome. Yeah, that's just that setting in, I guess. Thanks for watching. If you didn't catch the thing at the beginning, I'm going to be putting it out separately, or you could just go back to it. I don't know. I didn't quite get to polish that as much as I wanted to, because again, I'm trying to turn this around in a week, but it is what it is. I thought some of the moments were funny. It was fun to make. Alright, having said all that, I think there's only one thing left to say. besides saying, James Cameron, I love you for the final time. Please make another film besides Avatar and finish the franchise.
That's it, man. Game over, man. Game over. What are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do?